Okay, in this short video, I'm going to show you how to take notes, or I'm sorry, how to do vocabulary in your notebook. So far this year, you have taken some notes in your notebook on videos that you had to watch on your own, and you probably didn't take the most efficient notes. Maybe you didn't. And later on, I will do another video to kind of orient you into how to take better notes in your notebook, how to take them more effectively. But before that, I want to do vocabulary with you because that's the next thing we're going to put in our notebooks. Before we go into chapter 1 content, we want our chapter 1 vocabulary in there. So we always do the vocabulary and then we put our notes that we do in class together in your notebook. You never ever want to tear your vocabulary out of your notebook, unless of course you messed up on it, but you don't tear it out to turn it in. We always want to leave everything in our notebook so that our notebook, our journal ends up being the only thing we really have to have when we leave this class. It has every important thing that you've done, and it's basically your little bitty biology book that you make this year. All right, so if we look at this vocabulary, I've given you a really excellent example of vocabulary done by a student last year. If you want a 100 on your vocabulary, this is a great one to emulate. Let me see if I can't get this in the picture with me a little bit. So I have to get down here close to it. All right. Now, if you look up here in the upper left-hand corner, you'll see that the student has put their name on the vocabulary in the spiral, and they've also got a date in there. You always want to date what's in your spiral. It's your record of history. And I know right now it doesn't seem very important. I understand that you're a kid, but in 20, 30 years, you're going to think that's really, really cool to see. It will mean a lot to your kids. It'll mean even more to your grandkids. So having the date that you did these items on records history. That's the only way we know about history is from people actually writing things down and then writing the date down that they did it. And there's nothing more important than finding a date on something when you think you have something that's antique and of value. So up here, we've got our name and our date. And then you want a title. You need to make sure that you put a title, chapter 1 vocabulary. It's very, very easy, and just put that up there. It makes sense to have that. Now, you should be doing this with your textbook. So if you have your textbook, which you should have your textbook at home, you should probably be doing this video at home, watching the video at home, and then you can just grab your textbook. And if you get your textbook and you open up to chapter 1, on the very first page of chapter 1, you're going to see that there's a little key in the text. And I would show it to you, except it's a real pain on this camera to change books. So if you will just turn to chapter 1 right now, and then pause the video if you need to, and then just kind of scan through the text, through the actual body of the text, you're going to see a little key. And that key is a key concept in that section. And we want to make sure that we have those key concepts down in our vocabulary, because those are important things that you have to know from the chapter. So what they're doing is really kind of reducing in tiny nutshells the content of the chapter for you. So what this student has done is they've put the key concept, and this is a requirement. You put the key concept up here. In this case, the key is in this particular chapter. This is chapter 10, so this won't be your key. It says the larger a cell becomes, the more demands the cell has, places on its DNA, and blah, blah, blah. So that's a key concept in that section. So you're going to write that key concept out. And what she's done is write the word key and then highlighted it. Some kids draw a little key. Some kids have their own little icon that they like to use, whatever. But just make sure you identify this as a key concept and then write it out. And you'll notice that she's keeping a margin here. The margin stays the same. So she's picked a box on the graph paper grid. That's why we use it, where she will always go back to and start her next sentence on. And you also will notice, if I kind of move this, I'm going to move this a little bit more this direction. And you'll also notice on the right-hand margin, she is also keeping her lines on a particular box. That keeps your right-hand margin. It looks very, very sharp, very neat, and that's the kind of detail that scientists are known for, and that's why they get paid the big bucks. So we're just doing a little bit of training on being very, very geeky about the things that we do, and always doing the best job you can, not just the fastest job you can. That is not usually the best job. Quick does not mean quality. So we want to make sure we turn in quality work. You have plenty of time to do these things, and you don't do a whole lot of very difficult things in here. So you can do the things that you do with really high quality. Okay. All right. So we're going to write our key concept, and then you'll notice that she's boxed it, but she didn't just box it freehand. She took a ruler and she boxed it off very carefully and using the lines on the graph paper as a guide. That is why we use a graph paper notebook, so that we can be very, very precise. It makes it much easier for you. So you will box in those keys. That's a requirement. You must box in the keys, and you need to use a ruler. Okay, doing them freehand, you will never be able to do straight lines freehand. Kids try it every year. I think they try it to see if they can get away with it, and they never do. I'm going to find that it just stands out. You cannot mistake a freehand line with a ruled line. So make sure you rule your lines really nicely. And you'll notice that she skipped a line. And the next thing in that text, so you're following the text, you're not going to the back of the chapter and doing them in order of the chapter, and you're not going to the glossary. I want you to actually get the definitions from the text. So the next thing in this text was a definition. It was a boldface word, and it was cell division. In yours, I think it is science. I think science is the first one in chapter 1. And then she highlights the word. You can highlight it. You can box it in. You can do it in a different color. Some kids just use colored pens and they change the color of the word that they're defining, and then that makes it stand out. But it's very easy to see where your words are in here and find the one you're looking for. If I want to know what a bacteriophage is, well, it's right there. It's really, really easy to find that one. So we skip lines between our definitions and our keys, and we write our definitions just in the same way that we wrote our keys, keeping the margins on either side. You'll notice that her 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are all in order and right on the margin. Okay, so you're going to do your words in order from the text. Don't do them in alphabetical order, and don't do the keys, all the keys, and then all the words. Don't do that. I want them to come in order so that it kind of reads like your textbook does. So you're getting the information in a logical progression instead of just bunching it based upon it's a key, so they all go together. You don't do that. Okay. So if you will try this. So tonight your job is to do the first 3, 4. You can do 5 if you want, but if you're not sure you're doing it correctly and it doesn't look just like this, you might want to just do 2 or 3. And that way, when you come to class tomorrow, you can ask questions. You can have me check it, make sure it looks like I want it to look. And then you can proceed with the rest of it and know that you'll get a 100 for it. So don't miss any words as you go through the entire chapter, and keep your margins. Be sure you highlight your words and be sure that you box your keys. Do a really, really nice job on it. That's good practice for doing a good job in everything that you do all throughout your entire life, not just in your education. So practice those and then bring that back tomorrow. And if you have questions, we'll go over those.